D. Mace Vingen and Donick 1025, The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, and David Janes here with you. Willie, Derek, and I are live inside the Circa Sportsbook, inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. Titans lose. Boy, I bet none of you ever get tired of hearing that, huh? The Tennessee Titans lose once again, 33-19 to the Los Angeles Rams at Nissan Stadium yesterday. Another 0-2 start for the local professional football team. Derek Mason, at this time a week ago, you had an impassioned, I would even call it a sermon about the state of the Tennessee Titans. You were fired up. I always love a fired up Derek Mason. Are you feeling that way right now about the local professional football team?
I still feel the same way, but I gotta, dial it down just a tad bit. What is true and what is evident is that this team is not a good team. That's we saw it in its truest form yesterday. Doesn't mean that this team isn't going to win a game or two or four or six. I'm just saying that they are not a good football team at this time because they can't overcome the mistakes that they're having. Good football teams can overcome majority of their mistakes during the game because during the game there are more mistakes than what people may even notice. Even if a play works right, there may be a mistake on the backside somewhere. So this team don't have enough to overcome the mistakes that they, put upon themselves, whether it's false starts, holdings, offside, whatever the case may be, fumbles. This team isn't good enough to overcome those things. They are good enough to get an interception, flip the field, and if you do what you're supposed to do as an offense, then we have a chance at winning. This team is good enough to stop a high-powered team like the Rams twice in the red zone and still have a chance at winning. This team is able to drive down the field and everything look like it's supposed to look and then cap it off with a score. They're that good that they can do that. But they're that bad that they can go the opposite way too, which they have done the last two games. They almost have to play a flawless game in order to win, in my opinion. That's just mine because as the season goes, we understand it's a war of attrition. And if your roster isn't deep, those that start to get injured, you see it very quickly. And the Titans can't afford to have injuries as the season goes on. They've had a few already. But this team isn't good enough to overcome all those things.
Willie, let's talk about the one play that got the Nissan Stadium crowd off its feet. And you were part of that Nissan Stadium crowd yesterday. And we will talk about your experience following up on the conversation we had late last week about the atmosphere at Nissan Stadium for Cam Ward's home debut in the NFL. It's late in the first half. Cam Ward drops back, scrambles right, avoids a charging defender, throws against his body to Alec Iamanair on the other side of the field. You couldn't have scripted a better first NFL touchdown for Cam Ward. It is that type of play that had Cam Ward at the top of mock drafts for most of last season. It's that type of play that helped the Titans, among other reasons, decide to draft Cam Ward because he can make those sorts of plays. And you know me, I was waiting eagerly for the NFL to share the numbers on that play. It had a 14.2% completion probability. The horizontal distance between Ward and Iamanair from pass to catch was 30.4 yards, the longest such distance on a touchdown pass on the run in the next-gen stats era. So since at least 2016. Incredible play. And once I picked my jaw up off the floor, I was hit with the sobering reality that I truly believe the only way the Tennessee Titans are going to score touchdowns this season is if Cam Ward makes plays like that. And Cam Ward is unlikely to make plays like that every game. As I said, a 14.2% completion probability. Tell me if I'm completely out of pocket, off base, out of whack, whatever term you want to use. I simply believe that the only way this team is going to score touchdowns, they have one touchdown in 2 games. It's going to come on Cam Ward doing something ridiculous.
I don't buy that. I think that those were 2 really good teams that they've played. I'm with Derek that they're going to struggle. So that game I thought was more or less what I thought what I think we're going to see, what I've been thinking we're going to see throughout the year. When they play good teams, you just saw the Rams as a poised team, that's a good team, that's a confident team. Just stay with the plan. They've got a brilliant play caller as a head coach. They've got a young, ferocious defense. They have drafted extremely well. Extremely well. Look at the non-first round picks that they have that are great players. Puka Nacua is a 5th round pick. Their edge rushers, their center, their 3rd, 4th, 2nd round picks. They have drafted really well. They have a better roster than the Titans right now. And so I see what your point is, Adam, that that was an extraordinary play that got them the 1 touchdown. They're doing okay with what they have on some fronts, but they don't have the horses right now. So my big picture concern continues to be keeping Cam Ward upright and surviving week in and week out. He's done a good job so far. I think he improved in some areas this week, but ultimately he's still got a lot to learn, and he's trying to learn in the toughest environment you can have with the worst roster in the game, or one of the 3 or 4 worst rosters in the game.
Well, the Titans have allowed Cam Ward to get sacked 11 times in 2 games. Now, some of those sacks are on Cam Ward. I don't have the numbers in front of me to tell you exactly how Pro Football Focus grades these things, at least for the first 2 games of the season. But again, he's been sacked 11 times in 2 games, more than any quarterback in the league. Not since David Carr, I believe in 2002, has a quarterback been sacked as many times in his first 2 NFL games than Cam Ward. David Carr, 15 times sacked in 2002. There was a stat going around yesterday from CBS Sports that it was like the most that the quarterback's been sacked in his first 2 games in 75 years, which is completely incorrect. But if the goal, Willie and Derek, is to keep Cam Ward upright, the Titans are not succeeding at that either right now.
Well, they have faced 2 really good fronts. I do think that every Sunday won't be quite the same. Especially now, this what you pointed out is once they start getting injuries, they really get exposed, and that's one thing they were dealing with yesterday. So let's hope that we're going to get some news on Latham that's more optimistic. Like, they really have to have him. They've got to get Cushenberry doing better. Zeitler left the game late. These are the kind of things they just cannot afford to have happen. But I am curious, week in and week out, I don't think they're going to face the quality of fronts that they face. And that hopefully will give Cam Ward and that offensive line a little better chance to survive.
Well, you hope it does. But right now it's a learning phase for everybody, all 6 of them. I'm talking to 5 offensive linemen and the quarterback. They're all, it seems as if they're learning this thing together. And unfortunately, the worst time to learn is on a Sunday, because people see all your flaws because you're learning his offense. The offensive line isn't playing well, but Cam too. He has to. I think he has to understand, and maybe he's going to have to get hit a couple of more times. But that's not something you want. You don't want the quarterback to have to get hit more for him to notice he needs to get rid of the ball sooner. Because what happens when he does that, he gets happy feet, and then he starts seeing ghosts around his feet, Anything that comes near him, he's ready to get out of the pocket or ready to release the ball. He has to understand, along with Brian Callahan, which I think Callie does understand, that in order to be successful, the ball has to come out quick. And Callahan, as much as he wants to get the ball down the field, right now you just can't do it consistently. Because there were situations after watching this game, there were situations where they were trying to get deep down the field, and they just didn't have enough time, or the guys are not open. That's another issue here. Is that and listen, they get paid on the other side of the ball. I understand that. But guys are not getting open. They're not. Guys are not getting open for whatever reason. Guys are not separating. 1 minute, Cam's a little bit too late. Then, 5 plays in a row or 5 out of the 6, receivers aren't getting open. I said last week, the difference between the Rams and the Titans is that they know how to get open. They know how to scheme those guys open. I wasn't watching the same offense again. I watched the Rams offense and watched how they ran. And then I watched the Titans offense. And it was good to see both at the same time, back to back, to see how they flow. Because one wants to be the other.
Yeah.
And it's the Titans that want to be the Rams.
That's a great point.
But guys are not getting open. Just watch the tape. I try not to get on here and bash guys because I know how hard this job is. I really do, especially as a receiver. Sometimes the ball don't come out and people think, the receivers. I understand all of this. But once I watch it from this bird's eye view, I like guys are not separating. They're not. So Vrabel said this,
but is it personnel? I look at the Rams. I see a brilliant play caller, schemer. I see, but they have Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. They've got a couple of really good running backs. The Titans never could bother Matthew Stafford, and Stafford has got a great arm and knows the game. So you're right. It does look like two completely different things right now. So I see more personnel, but I also see a really well drawn up scheme by the Rams.
I am telling you. Just like, Denver back in the heyday when they was running football, Shanahan said, I can put any back in my system and they will get 1,000 yards. And by golly, he did it. Any back that he had, it was the scheme. And if you were a player that fit that scheme, we were good. The Rams is about scheme, and they fit their players to their scheme. Their players, why do you think they can get guys in the 6th round? Late in the 2nd round or in the 2nd round, other guys that can come to a team and fit perfectly like Devontae Adams, because it's the scheme, and then they go and match their player with the scheme. Baltimore does it. They do the same thing. Why isn't the Titans matching their scheme with their players or their players with their scheme? Because to me, it just looks like a different offense, and I know the quarterbacks are different. I get that. But
I think it's a great question because I don't know the answer.
And I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, I thought there were some plays yesterday, some really nice ones where they started to move Ward a little bit, action one way, roll the other. They hit 2 or 3. He missed one at a critical time where DK was wide open. But it was that play, scheme, schemed them 3 or 4 passes down the field that really helped them. Io Manor made a couple of really good plays, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. There were more plays where you said to yourself, man, the Rams really schemed up that play nice. Like when the Titans took the lead, they take the lead late in the 3rd quarter. I'm at the game. I'm thinking they're doing a great job hanging in this game. They go up 16-13. It hasn't always been pretty. They are running, sticking with the run game, getting just enough from Tony Pollard. Some really good stretches where he ran the ball well, and they're staying in the game. They're shortening the game. The defense is battling. And just like that, it went from 16-13 to 27-16 in about 6 or 8 minutes. It happened really fast. But it shows you that margin for error and also a team that is a winning team that knows exactly what they're doing. They're not going to be rattled
when things
and they
are
stick
going,
with it.
Yeah, when things are going, when they're clicking, it's like there's nothing you can't call that won't get open. But I'm watching the Rams offense and I'm thinking like, man, like they scheme the right play at the right.
But
It's amazing to see it.
McVay is,
And I understand
around
McVay,
the league
exact.
considered one of the best,
I
right?
get it, but like I love Devontae Adams. He will be a Hall of Famer. Puka Nacua is a good receiver. But the way they get open, if you're watching it from a receiver's point of view, it's like, wow, I want to play in that offense. I want to play with that coach because, man, guys are just, it's like effortlessly. Guys are just running and they're there. It's like, here's the ball.
They're not out athleticizing.
Exactly.
It seems like, they're just there.
They're just
occasionally they are, but there's a lot of plays during the game. We're like, man, that was a really well designed play.
Absolutely. Just like the reverse. A missed tackle, but a really well ran play.
Yeah. That
for
was
the Rams.
good. Right.
For the Rams, they scored.
Another example was Titans take the lead 16-13. First play on a 4-play drive where they never even got the second down. Boom, 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 touchdown. So the Titans have the lead. The crowd's believing a little bit. The team's like, hey, we got a chance against a good team. First play is a great scheme. I sent it to you guys this morning. It's a little rub wrap pick play where Nacua doesn't really have to do anything all other than sort of follow the tight end, rub off him. Roger McCreary gets just bumped a little bit. He takes a half a step, opens up, and that's all Matthew Stafford's looking for. Boom. Nacua's down the field for, 20, 25 yards, and they're off and running.
It looked easy.
Yeah, it looked easy. The Rams get a lot more of those.
Yes.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Your reaction all show long to the Tennessee Titans 33-19 loss to the LA Rams yesterday at Nissan Stadium. Call us, text us, 615-737-1025. We are live at the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. We will be joined by Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lea in the second hour. Hey, a football team in Nashville that wins games. What a novel concept that is. We will talk to Clark Lea at roughly 4:40, 4:45 after the Commodores went to Columbia and laid the smackdown on the South Carolina Gamecocks. So looking forward to talking to a winning football coach on the program later today. But we will take your reaction all show long on the Titans. 615-737-1025. Mondays, which is today, were made for Macero. Big screens, bold flavors, and all the football action from queso to kickoffs. This is how Macero does game night. Macero Football Mondays in 12th South. Don't miss a snap.
No, you don't want to overreach, and you're going to stay within what you're asked to do. But how much more do you feel like you're capable of doing?
Well, I think I'm capable of a lot. Coach Callahan, he's gave me, a lot of authority. So I want more of it. And that's the relationship that, me and him are just building every day. He's only called 2 games for me. I want him to call a lot more games for me. He's one of the coaches who's going to do his best for his players, get his players in the right situation, run game, pass game. And, we just continue to grow. I think that's the biggest thing.
Is it hard to be, I don't want to say hard, but there's a lot of patience involved in this thing, and you're playing the long game inside the short game. Are there challenges to that?
I wouldn't even call it playing a long game. I'm trying to win every time I step on the field. That's our mindset as a team. I just think we have to, do it at a faster rate. We got to continue to have more urgency every day. We got to get better every day. It is all a process. It's all about patience. But at some point, it just comes to, you just got to go take it.
That was Cam Ward after the Tennessee Titans lost 33-19 to the LA Rams in Tennessee's home opener yesterday at Nissan Stadium. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. We want your reaction to the game all show long at 615-737-1025. Let's start with James in Ashland City on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. James, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call. I just as piggyback my call last week, to me, that there's no question in my mind. If you guys disagree with me, say so. But I think Cam Ward is the Titans' new quarterback. I think the biggest thing that's holding him back is the offensive line. We spend it a lot and invested a lot of money in the line. And I know what J.C. Lincoln is hurt. So what? Next guy up. That's the way the NFL is. Put your big boy pants on. And that's just the biggest problem right now why we can't move the football, especially the passing game, is because these guys ain't doing their jobs. Skoronski ain't doing his job. That's the biggest thing I've got. And if you guys don't think that Cam Ward is an upgrade for Will Levis, I've got beachfront property to sell to anybody that's listening in Middle Tennessee and Las Vegas for you. Have a good day.
Thank you, James.
Well, I agree with them that that's a pretty low bar, right? Based on what we've seen from Will Levis. Will Levis could be a late bloomer somewhere. I don't know. But I love that clip we just played. I love Cam Ward's makeup. I really do. He is a battler. He's going to work. He says the right things. He is about the team. He's not about a bunch of nonsense. I like that. But they've got to continue to build that environment around him. I do think he can help himself by getting the ball out quicker on a number of things. I kept going back on that. I tweeted out one example, and it was maybe the biggest play in the game. They're down 20-16. The strip sack that happens to him needs to be a lesson, especially knowing that you don't have J.C. Latham and you're facing an incredibly tough front four that is outstanding at getting after the quarterback. You've got a weak left tackle. Dan Moore is not that great. We know that they overpaid for him. He is struggling. Okay. Cam Ward has got a 2nd and 8, down 20-16. He's got an easy throw to Chigakonkwo. Easy on 2nd and 8. Throw it to him. Chig can run with the ball after he catches it. He might get a first down right there. If he doesn't, it'll be 3rd and 2 at worst. But he holds it, and boom, strip sack, his first turnover in the NFL. He's done a good job only turning the ball over once against those defenses. That's something really good that he's doing. But these are little lessons that he's going to learn, right? So it's not all the offensive line, but the offensive line is still an issue, especially with Latham not in there.
Yeah, it's still a problem.
They did run it well, though.
Yeah, they ran the football exceptionally well yesterday. I thought Pollard did a good job at carrying the load for them. But he's going to need that extra back to spell him for a bit. And hopefully they're able to do that once Spears come back fully healthy. But, Cam, there are some things that he needs to get better at. I do believe that he is the quarterback for the Titans. I do believe that. But he's going to have to, and sort of this is the problem. He's trying to help an offensive line that is trying to help him, that can help him, and he's young, and you shouldn't expect him to be trying to help you. It should be the other way around. You should be trying to help him. But for whatever reason, they went out and they thought they addressed the left tackle position and the right tackle position. Um, Dan Moore Jr. did some things good, but he also did some things that he's going to have to get better at, a lot better and very quickly. Peter Skoronski, I thought Peter played well. I did. Cushenberry, he's going to have to, this thing's going to have to speed up for him. Zeitler, he played well, but then he went out. Hance came in, and Hance didn't do any better. And then the right tackle, I mean, it started, I think, for the second series where he false started, or was it the first series? I don't know. Well, I got it written right here. He false started on the first series.
Yep.
He gave up a sack and a false start back to back.
John Ojukwu yesterday, according to Pro Football Focus, 5 pressures allowed, 3 hurries, 2 sacks. Apparently, the Tennessee Titans thought that he was redeemable at right tackle. He was on the team last season. They elevated him from the practice squad to replace J.C. Latham in the lineup. And the less I see of John Ojukwu on the field, the better.
But the thing is, they knew John Ojukwu. He like you said, he was on the team last year, and so I'm a little, I know and I accept that finding backup tackles are about as hard. That's about as tough a job as you can find. But Ali Udo was a free agent pickup, and the fact that he doesn't even get the start.
That tells you something.
They thought Ojukwu was better than him. What are they paying Ali Udo? I mean, because you're right. Ojukwu, he got dominated, and we talked about this on Friday, and they did a reasonable job. They ran the ball well. They stayed in the game, because we talked about how against that team and that front four, you could lose the game by just not being able to protect your quarterback.
Yes,
and I didn't think it was that extreme. But it was something that hamstrung them to a large degree.
They could never get into a flow outside of that, the one scoring drive, and then sort of the drive at the end where they got some things going. But listen, the Rams were in more so of a prevent defense kind of. They were giving you a lot of things in front. You read it quickly. The receivers got up the field. You were able to get a field goal in that. But this offense, because of the offensive line, this offense hasn't been able to run efficiently. And if it's like two things are happening, and they're happening at different times. You have a quarterback, you have an offensive line on some plays where they're getting beat, and we know who's getting beat. It's Dan Moore, and it's the right tackle. Okay, and then on other plays, when it seems like they have them, the quarterback holds the ball too long. And then he ends up,
sack fumble is a great example of that.
Moving around, and he may make a play, but at times there's been a few times in this game where, because he's taking so long to throw, or he's not reading it quick enough, his players have almost ran out of the zones, or they've almost ran out of potential of catching a pass. One was Alec Almaner. He was running a shallow cross, and because he didn't see him quick enough, Alec Almaner kept running. He finally stopped, and then Cam hit him. You were a little bit late. If you would have hit him right as he was in between the two linebackers, you would have been able to hit him. He turned up the field. Now, you got some pressure in front of you. I get it. But then there were other plays where the offensive line is giving you an opportunity to throw the ball, but you're not throwing it. So that's why I say this team isn't a good team. And I'm not saying this is to try to get anybody on this team, but half the time the receivers ain't getting open. Half the time the offensive line ain't blocking. Half the time the quarterback ain't seeing it quick enough. And then the other half, I know that's a bunch of halves. I get it. I ain't math. I get it. But then the other half, you dropping footballs. Right. I mean, you're not a good team. That's just what it is. You're not. Right. You got some good players, but you're not a good team.
That's why, and me being in the stands, there were a lot of moaning and groaning about the coaches, which is par for the course. This is how sports work. The coach gets rid. But this is why I try to keep the perspective of look at the 4 drafts. We're talking about 4 full drafts where you have about 3 viable players. Skoronski, McCreary, Chigakonkwo. Those are your best 3 players in 4 years of drafting. You can't, it is hard to, that is what is showing up when you're playing good teams. And Cam Ward's trying to make it work, and Brian Callahan's trying to make it work under those circumstances. It is hard.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction all show long to the Titans' 33-19 loss to the LA Rams in Week 2. Coming up next, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport will join us. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw at Nissan Stadium yesterday. Teron Davenport, ESPN.com. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, by ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, Teron Davenport, who is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. Teron, Cam Ward has taken 11 sacks in his first 2 games. How much of that do you attribute to Cam Ward? And how much do you attribute that to the performance of the offensive line in front of him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture of all of that, to be honest with you. I think when you look at sometimes he flees the pocket and, he'll run out of bounds or he'll end up getting sacked on the move. That's not always on the offensive line. So it's give and take. I think Brian Callahan, he said it well earlier today when he said it's an offense problem overall.
Speaking of the offensive line, John Ojukwu had a rough day yesterday in place of J.C. Latham. What are you hearing about Latham's hip injury and his availability for this Sunday against the Colts?
Yeah, I haven't heard much about Latham's hip as of yet. Probably do a check-in either later today or tomorrow. But I think for the most part, when you look at this situation, it's bad for them because you need Latham out there because the offensive line is already, not the best as it is.
Now, TD, quickly before I ask you about the game, what was the reasoning behind the Jeffrey Simmons revised contract? Do you know?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm not so sure that it was necessarily revised because there's part of that contract. So if you look at it, the extra money was actually embedded in the extension, for what I understand, and there was a factor in to the 17th game, and that's how it got to 68.5. There was $800K apparently that was supposed to cover that. So I'm not sure exactly why that or how they've arrived to the conclusion that the extension has been that way, or not extension, but the raise is that. So there's a little bit of mystery behind that.
Yeah, because when I saw it this morning, Adam said to us when I saw it this morning, I'm like, that's odd. They revise a contract to get more money. Are they setting up something down the line? Potentially, do they need more money open? So they're giving Jeffrey a raise, so to speak. They need to give it to me. Give me that 800,000. No, but looking at this game, TD, I said that when I'm watching it, it's a lot of like Coach said, it's a team thing where on one hand, you have the offensive line, they're not blocking as well. But then when they are blocking, the quarterback is not reading it fast enough. But then when he reads it fast enough, there's no separation outside or guys are dropping the ball. Is that how the offense feels outside of what Coach Callahan has said?
Yeah, no, the guys, they collectively feel it's a problem. There's no finger pointing. They understand that there's an assortment of things. And really the way that they're approaching it, at least from, what I gathered, is they each got to do their own job and do their as Cam Ward says, each be their one of 11. And I think that's the best way to approach it.
Now, what is the latest? Because they missed both these guys dearly this past week, J.C. Latham and T'Vondre Sweat. I thought Latham's loss was going to be the biggest, but then that second half of that game, man, they really missed big T'Vondre Sweat in the middle to stop that run. But what is the latest on those two guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, Latham, I'll find out more as we go along. But Sweat, he seems to be good. Talked to him a little bit before the game on Sunday. And then also just, seeing him walk in, he didn't have any issues there. The main thing is just him getting that practice time. And so I think Wednesday is going to tell you a lot about where Sweat will probably be next Sunday, because the big thing, like I said, was getting the time in practice, and he didn't get that. And he needs that in order to be ready to play on Sunday. So getting off of the ankle for the time that he did, I think is good. And then it'll give it time to heal back and for him to rehab. And I think he should be good to go on Sunday.
Teron Davenport is with us. And Teron, we were just commenting in the first segment, and maybe you could give us a little insight. Ali Odu was a pickup in the offseason. John Ajoku, I would have to say, at least by my thing, was a little bit more of a known quantity. What the decision to start Ajoku over Ali Odu, was that surprising to you? And what does that say about their evaluation of Odu?
No, it wasn't surprising to me. They somewhat trust Ojukwu. Ojukwu is the guy when they go tackle eligible. He's typically the one that comes in. I think you look at Ali Udo last the Broncos game. His first snap, he gave up the sack. He gave up multiple pressures on the 11 and 12 snaps that he played. So I think they felt like there was a change that needed to be made. Who knows? I mean, if Latham can't go this week, maybe you see a guy like Blake Hance out there. But I mean, if I'm them, I'm continuing to filter through. I don't see why they shouldn't go out and look at bringing Jalen Duncan back, at least in a practice squad.
Give me your evaluation overall about the way L'Jarius Sneed played. I thought they asked a lot of him. It was a hot day. I thought he played well. I thought he maybe wore down a little bit towards the end of the game, and they got him on one or two. But tell me, you may have talked to him after the game. How did you think he played, and how did he feel after the game?
You know, he acknowledged that Devontae Adams made a couple plays, but like he said, what about the other plays? Because there were some pretty good reps. I mean, you look at corner of the end zone, he had a pass breakup. He knocked the ball down along the sideline a couple times. I think it's a little bit of a give and take there. But as a cornerback, when you give up a reception, everybody sees that and points to that, but they don't always point to the pass breakups. If you get an interception, they'll look at that. But I think he played up and down. It definitely wasn't, equal to what they probably were expecting when they traded for him, assigned him to that deal. So there's still more to be desired. But I mean, again, it's his second week back after being out since last October. So there's something that has to be put to that.
I think I saw this, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. He played about 94% of the snaps, and so they ramped up a lot from what they did with the pitch count that everybody was talking about last week to basically giving him the green light and having him follow an elite receiver around. And I was a little surprised based on the conditioning, the heat, the turf, all of that. I'm curious what went on behind the scenes there, because I'm just glad he made it through. And I can get it. Like, you're so thin on talent, and you've got a guy out there that's pretty good. And you're like, boy, if we take him out, we're in real trouble. And they had a chance to win the game. What was the plan during the week? Did they plan on playing him the entire time?
Yeah, they planned on opening up, maybe not the entire time, but they planned on seeing him get a lot more reps. And I think it's just a matter of monitoring how he responded throughout the week and how he responded from the game, right? So the season opener, that was his first time, literally first time on the field in a game, right? Because, he didn't play the preseason. So they wanted to see how his body would respond to that. And given what they got, the conclusion was, hey, we're going to look at him and playing even more snaps. And then they monitor it as the game goes along, and it was understood that he was going to be out a series or two. And that's pretty much where it was. So, by the time Friday came along, I think they had a pretty good idea what they were going to do. And what they were going to do is what you saw on Sunday.
I was impressed with the Rams. I think they're really good, probably better than I even realized when we were making our preseason predictions. But TD, if you look, the defense for the Titans, I thought held their own for a good part of the game, but they were nicked for maybe a few too many chunk plays. And that reminded me a little bit of last year. You look really good, and all of a sudden, boom, the one big player there seems to change momentum for the Rams. How do they evaluate themselves there?
Yeah, no, they acknowledge they gave up too many chunk plays. And I think when you look at the pass rush and the inability to get to the quarterback, you're going to get chunk plays when the receivers can run those mad bohemian routes. You know what I mean? That's what happens. You know, they could run a post dig corner, et cetera, to make something up, combine a few routes. So they have more time, right, in order to get those longer developing routes going, and those typically lead to chunk plays. You let the quarterback get back there and watch everything go, and there you have it.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter. Teron,
What is going on?
Teron, are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm on Route 24.
Oh, the traffic out there, my friend.
Yeah, some truck driver beat the horn at another truck. You know, they think they own the world, and now they or the roads rather. So now they got a little battle between each other. I just cruised right by it.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donahue. Is presented every week by Bart Durham Injury Law. TD, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys. Take it easy.
Yep.
Something's going on with that.
That scared me.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. I hope TD okay.
I
Yeah.
think he's okay.
Well, the signal
Okay.
was not okay.
Yeah, the
Something
signal
was
was-
going on, like a robotic phone or
Yeah.
something. It sounded like the new Tron movie was
Yeah.
coming out or something.
Brought to you by
The new Tron movie.
Well,
oh man.
what we heard of Teron
Yes.
was incredibly insightful, as always. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will continue to take your reaction on the Titans' 33-19 loss to the LA Rams yesterday at Nissan Stadium. Coming up next, last week, we discussed what we thought the atmosphere would be like at Nissan Stadium for Cam Ward's home debut. Willie was at Nissan Stadium yesterday, so he will share what he saw. That's coming up next. 615-737-1025. We are live at the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. Spin and Donick 102.5 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie, Derek, and I are live at the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall up here in Franklin, Kentucky. Before we get to our next topic, let's go to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com and welcome in Howie from Milwaukee. Howie, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, fellas, thank you so much. Yeah, my pleasure. I love Tehran's segment every time and all of you guys' comments. Just a question, it's kind of hard to determine what's going on with Brian Callahan right now. Like he's getting – Cam Ward is looking better, and that's a big thing for him, a OC quarterback. But my question to you, I guess, to Derek, historically, I think of teams that do well on offense. They have a lot of tight end presence, and they drafted Gunnar Helm, and they have Chig, and there was a combined 8 targets, 6 to Chig, 2 to Gunnar, but for like putrid stats. Can you explain to me why is Gunnar just not in the offense? I would see him be a great option for Cam to go to get the change going. I want to hear your comments. Thanks so much, guys. See ya.
Thank you, Howie.
Thank you, Howie. From what I gather, just watching, he's playing a lot, but I'm sure he doesn't know things quite the way he needs to know them. Heck of an athlete. He's still learning the game, so his processing may be a little bit slow. So do you just throw him out there every time, or do you bring him along slowly? I think, for Gunnar Helm, you bring him along slowly. But I don't think this offense, and, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I don't think this offense is a tight end-centric offense. It wants to feature the receivers. Because if you look at it, whether it's McVay, whether it's in Cincinnati with Taylor, that's what that offense needs to look like. It's wide receiver centric. It's not the tight ends, they factor in, but we want to try to get it to our wide receivers. Maybe he has to change a little bit of what he's thinking as far as how the offense is going to operate first and foremost. Maybe if the receivers aren't getting open as much, maybe you have to put your tight ends in a position where they are becoming more of a focal point or not. But neither one of these tight ends up until this point have shown they should be given that status, because it's not like they're going out there and making plays either.
We had one of our critical Titans questions, Adam, was who's going to end up with more combined receiving yards? We took Ridley out of the mix, and we listed DK, Io Manor, Helm, and Bryce Oliver. Oliver is not playing a whole lot, versus the veteran placeholders, Lockett, Jefferson, and Okonkwo. And early on, you can see they're playing. I know Helm is not as involved as people would like to see yet, but I feel like he's gonna be in the plans. So they are.
As he learns more.
I think the youngsters are going to win this category the way it's trending right now. Injuries could play a part because they're already getting way more snaps. Like I'm not seeing much of Lockett anywhere. I'm hardly seeing Van Jefferson in the game. Io Manor's is doing some good things early on. So all that to say, they're trying to make it work with a lot of really young players. And as we've talked about a lot, Calvin Ridley is a very flawed number one receiver. He's miscast as number one receiver. He's really a number two. So all of this to say, this is making it really, really challenging. And it's a good question, I think, by the caller. Do you try to make it easier? People can think back to the early Steve McNair Titans game where they used a ton of 2 tight ends, right? Frank Wycheck, Jackie Harris.
But that was a whole different offense.
It's a very different offense. But it was a little more short pass friendly.
Tight end, yes.
Yeah.
Andrew from Dover on our text line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai. That's WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says Jim DK is starting to bring back memories of my childhood with D-Mace on these kick and punt returns. And I never thought I'd have to bring up Darius Raynaud again, because remember, Darius Raynaud, is the last Titans player to return a punt for a touchdown, and that was on December 30th, 2012. And I thought I was going to have to, never have to mention that again, because DK returned one 57 yards, but it was wiped out by a late flag for a blindside block. Was it Cedric Gray?
That was awful. That was awful.
Do you think that was a bad call?
It was a bad call. I mean,
I understand the rule.
I
see what they
understand the
saw.
rule. He didn't. It ain't like he came and just took him
Yeah.
out, like blindsided
Yeah.
him and knocked him on his back. It was a call that shouldn't have been made. That was a hell of a return by Kim DK. This special teams unit. I love this special teams unit because this unit went from the worst to, frankly, it's been one of the best in the national
It's
football.
been a plus both weeks.
It's been a plus both weeks. One can say it has been the best special teams in the league. They've taken away 2 long returns because of penalties, and he's had some long ones outside of that too. I like what DK is doing. I love what Bones Fossil is doing. I'm excited about this unit. The kicker, he can kick it through. He can kick it to the moon. The place kicker, he can kick it through whatever. You got returners that can return. This is an exciting group.
I thought one interesting thing in the game regarding special teams, and DK, I think he looks very confident. He looks like he belongs. He doesn't look like the moment's too big. I am curious if and when he has a mistake, if he can bounce back and get through it. Because I've seen some of these young guys, they look all right until one goes wrong, and all of a sudden you get a little gun shy. But one of the factors yesterday, the Rams did a really interesting thing on the kickoff. Remember, this is still a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kicking knuckleballs, side spin knucklers that bounced. And DK had some trouble. And I think any returner would have had trouble.
Yeah.
You're looking for that true bounce. You don't always get it on the first one. They practice that a lot. I'm guessing you're not allowed to let – I'm still getting used to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can if it lands in the landing zone, you can't let it go into the end zone and get the touchback, can you?
Well, if it goes into the end zone, you can down it. I think you can down it. If it hits the ground and go into the end zone, you got to recover.
This is what was going around the stand. I don't know if they talked about it on the broadcast, but a couple times he elected to try to field it on a bounce, and there was one after they lost the lead. They were up 16-13. Rams come down and score in a quick drive. 4 plays, boom. All of a sudden you're behind. The next kickoff skips. DK bobbles it. Then he tries to run laterally. It's the one that I thought he made a poor decision on.
He should just
taken some yards. He lost 5 or 6 yards. They start on the 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of all people, DK is wide open on a play that had worked all day, and Cam missed him.
Yeah, didn't see him.
And the next thing you know, they throw a tough one to Io Manor. He's got a chance to catch it. The guy makes a really good play to build, and then you got to punt it back. And so these are the little things. But what did you think of that? Like, it seems like the Titans should consider that side spin kind of thing. It was playing tricks with them all day.
They're going to have to. I love the new rule because it gives an opportunity for a returner to return the ball. I think the NFL forgot how exciting and how momentous is that a word? No,
momentous.
There we go. That
where's
play,
the bell, Adam? Travel the bell. Come on.
How that play can be. And you see it in the first couple of weeks, man. We've had returns. We've had returns for touchdowns. We've had big returns. They should never try that again. The NFL should never try that again. What they tried to eliminate, no, you shouldn't do that. Now you're starting to see that come back into play. And thankfully for the Titans, I do believe they have a returner that can go out there and get the job done. And then obviously they have, the special teams coach to do it as well. But yeah, you're right. He's going to have to, they may start to elect to do more of that in practice to get him used to it. Because that is sort of a deal where you can throw the returner off a little bit, make him hesitate a little bit, or he gets it, and if he downs it in the end zone once it hits in the play and it goes into the end zone and you down it, I think you get to come out at the 30 and not the 35, I believe.
Thank you, David. So Willie, you were at Nissan Stadium yesterday. Derek and I were not at the game yesterday. We did watch the game, of course. And last week we had a conversation about what we thought the atmosphere would be like for Cam Ward's home debut for the Tennessee Titans. So I think it's only fair to follow up on that conversation because we had some critical words for the Tennessee Titans and the atmosphere and crowds at Nissan Stadium. So it's only fair that we review what we said. So Willie, you were there yesterday. How would you describe the atmosphere, and was it in line with what you thought it was when we discussed it late last week?
I think it was a little bit more towards being in line with what I thought we were going to see. It was, I don't know if they announced the sellout. I'm sure they probably did, but there were huge chunks of empty seats. Huge. Like the red seats in the club level were very conspicuous just because of the red, right? It jumps out on your TV screen.
The Titans announced an attendance, quote unquote, of 59,069 fans.
So that's 7,000 short of capacity. I think it's 65,000 plus that Nissan Stadium holds.
But was it more, would it have been more accurate to say 59,069 tickets distributed versus butts and seats?
I think it was probably a little less. It was less than 59,000.
Okay.
For sure. But at least they did. I've seen them have games like this in the past where they announced the sellout.
Yeah.
But there were more Rams fans there than I expected. We speculated on that. There were not a ton, but there were significant amount. But more than that, and it was a hot day. So it was, to not sell out the season opener says a lot about what's going on. Like I think some people have punted until the new stadium opens. I would guess that there's that group. But I also wonder what the Titans are doing as an organization to try to make it worthwhile to come. Because if you can't sell the first game out in a rebuild, then what's it going to be like in mid-November and December if you're out of it and you get some tough weather? I mean, you could see some really ugly attendance figures. But beyond that, I thought where they had taken a step back, and it's never been great, but their game presentation, their game operations, I was very disappointed in the replays they showed on the Jumbotron. There were several key plays, and you cannot tell me in this day and age that when you pay money to go to a game, and no, I didn't pay money. Plaz gave me his other ticket, so I didn't do that. So let me be upfront about that.
Moocher?
I got invited, and I didn't want to be rude. I took it.
I don't blame you.
Plaz has had the same seats in the same section since day one.
Now, let me ask you a question. Where are George's seats at Nissan Stadium?
He's in the 300 level, and he's on the 25-yard line. He's in the front edge of the 300 level, so he's pretty far up there. But I think it's a good seat.
Okay.
But there are plays where you need to see the replay. The crowd needs to see the replay. It could be challenged. It could be a play where the Titans had a chance to make a play and they didn't, and you're like, well, I want to see what happened there. They had a number of instances where they did not show any replay. And it did sometimes appear like they were not wanting to show plays that didn't go well for the Titans. So I don't know what was going on, or they just didn't time it well, but it was very, very poor on the replay thing. Also, it was opening day. I expected to see, and in the past, I've seen a lot of military presence, a flyover, something to spice up the fact that it's opening day. Bunting on the sides, some kind of pomp and circumstance. There was none of that. None. They had a big flag in the middle of the field. They had some people shaking it, fluttering it. They had a national anthem, and that was it. That was it. They used to do a lot more, and I didn't think it was that great, but they have eliminated the in-house PA person that, kind of directs the TV timeouts.
So wasn't nobody doing that?
No, in fact, the only guy that did it was Javon Curse, and that was something they've been doing that I think is a good thing. They bring a former player in there, and between the third and fourth quarters, they bring him out on the field. Javon was awesome. The Freak was out there. He got a great reaction from the crowd. They showed him in the suite. He's in great shape. It looked like they could put him in the game. They might ought to try that.
They need something.
They need an edge
somehow,
rusher.
some way.
I mean, he was awesome. But there just was not any effort or anything. We know the stadium is what it is,
that
right?
flyover costs, man.
I don't know what's going on. But I've seen them have a pair parachute guy come down and land on the
Hey, that
50?
costs money.
Come on, these guys. I need something.
Willie, that costs money, man.
They don't have for example, they don't have the TSU band playing like they used to. And I'm just looking at examples of what they've done.
Hopefully
Before. But it looked like a mail-in to me. There's just nothing. And then I'm watching the Sunday night game in Minnesota, and Vikings got a little problem here. Their quarterback is hurt. He didn't play very well. The Falcons went in there and beat him. But they bring in Jared Allen. They get the big skull chant. Like it's energy before
but he's
the game.
going to the Hall of Fame, so that's different.
Yeah, but the freak is no.
I know
slouch,
the freak.
you know
I
what
get
mean?
it, but the freak pumped up the crowd that
Yeah.
was there.
I may have missed it. But I got there several minutes before kickoff. I don't think they did a 12th man thing like they had before. I can remember a game in the past where
So
they had
Javon
PK.
wasn't the 12th man.
He was the Titans legend.
Oh,
I
okay,
think is what
okay.
they call him. They brought him out in the between the third and the fourth quarter, which was great. That was good. I've seen PK Subban throw the sword down. Like they didn't do any of that. So I'm not sure what's going on there. We know the stadium is what it is. It's not. You're not going there for perks, right? It's even
And they
harder
ain't
to
giving
get
you
into.
none.
You have to walk around all the construction to get in there. We know that was the key, right? That you're going to have to deal with that if you're going to go to the game. But I didn't see much hustle of, hey, we know we got to pardon our dust, right? You see, pardon our dust. We're building a new stadium. It's exciting. But in the meantime, let's do what we can with what we've got. All right, so I'm very concerned going forward about the game experience. Like, you got to give people a reason to go.
Lenny on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com says, if the Titans put on a better show, and I mean just a better game day experience, they would get more people to show up even though their team is not good right now. But it is the worst fan experience in the NFL. Austin from Clarksville says, the new in-game stuff is absolutely atrocious. They will never get any butts and seats if they keep status quo. They need to do something or the new stadium will be a bust. Mitch in Bellevue says, we were surrounded by Rams fans. I got livid when I heard Ring of Fire. Please move on from that song. R.I.P. Johnny Cash. Everything felt like they phoned it in from the concessions to the presentation. Also, they ran out of water at most places in the stadium.
The concessions are really, really below standard. It is not good at all. Like it's discouraging even to try to go out and get, like, if you look at the clips, if you have the game on film of the crowd in the seats to start the second half. Remember, the Titans are leading at halftime. They've played a hell of a first half, and they've got the lead, all the momentum going to the locker room. There were so many people that were not able to get back to their seats to start the second half. It was unbelievable. You know how in the blue seats on the lower part of the stadium, you can see the word Titans. They have some of the seats are painted white. You could almost see the entire Titans word and that I can only assume that people went to get something to eat and they were not able to get through the line in the 12 to 15 minutes that you have in time. And so you're just not moving people fast enough through there. To me, that's something that you can improve, even if you don't have the state-of-the-art stuff that they've been building that will be there in the next stadium. I would assume that will be easier in the next stadium. But right now, it is really, really rough. I've gotten to the point every time I go, I don't even try to get anything to eat. They could get some of my money if you could move me through. But if I look at the line and I'm never going to get back in the seat, I'm just going to suck it up.
615-737-1025. If you were at Nissan Stadium on Sunday, does your experience mirror Willie's? Let us know. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. But coming up next, we're going to put the Titans off to the side for a second. Let's discuss a football team in Nashville that actually wins games. Vanderbilt absolutely throttled South Carolina on Saturday. How high is the Commodore ceiling? We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, if you're trapped in a high-rate mortgage, let me give you that message again that I've been doing these last few weeks. If you're watching your hard-earned money vanish each month when you pay the mortgage, at Loan Pronto, They're delivering the lowest mortgage rates in nearly 3 years. So Loan Pronto wants you to know about their rate reduction home loan program. It's a streamlined, low-cost way to slash your house payments by hundreds of dollars a month. You can lock in a fixed rate as low as 4.99% APR and close in as little as 2 weeks. No appraisal needed in most cases. You can skip your next 2 house payments entirely. Rates this low won't last. So call Loan Pronto now for the free, no-obligation quote that I've been telling you about. Lower payments, more money in your pocket, and a fresh start. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
Theo Vaughn was at Asheville's stadium for the win against #1 Alabama last year. That's the lone win against a ranked opponent for Vandy in its last 21 tries. There was a shot of Cole Santa right next to Theo, and I was going to say two of the great podcasters in America. Yep. Yeah, there they are.
Together getting millions of views every week.
Yes. I don't even want to know what he told me about Diego Pavia's mom either. Like I'm just, what? That's not about. No, it's not like that. It's not like that at all.
Well, let's hear it.
Tell us.
The way that I understand the story is that maybe just give me a nod if this is okay. Diego Pavia wins this game. He promised you he would set you up with a date with his mom. There we go.
He's a nurse, and I've always wanted to. My goal is I would like to marry a nurse one day. So that's why I think
Smart.
He was thinking about that, but
It
I
is.
don't even know if I would do it. I don't know.
That's
I like being his friend. I don't want to end up being like his stepdad or something. You know, that would.
Yeah, that would be weird. I got it.
That is being a friend. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
And we have run out of time in the third quarter. The podcast will have to continue later this week. Nicole, you should have him as a guest. 21-7, man.
Well, congratulations, Theo Vaughn. You have scored a date with Diego Pavia's mom. Wasn't that the song by Fountains of Wayne? That's Stacy's mom, of course.
Stacy's mom.
Stacy's mom, of course. But congratulations to Theo Vaughn.
I have to reveal something. I
Yes.
did in the celebration do a little karaoke on Saturday night later in the evening with some friends. It was it was fun, just celebrating. And I had and Stacy's mom was performed by one of the singers.
Well, Theo Vaughn has since
So you were able to put
Diego-
Coach Willie
and
aside
she did not
and
change the
celebrate?
words. She did not change the words to Diego's mom.
Theo Vaughn has since posted a picture of Diego's mom in the stands with a heart drawn around her head and is soliciting ideas of where they should go on their date. So congratulations, Theo Vaughn. But the reason why Theo Vaughn is going on a date with Diego Pavia's mom apparently is because Diego Pavia held up his end of the bargain. The Vanderbilt Commodores, Willie Donick, laid the smackdown on the 11th ranked Gamecocks of South Carolina, 31-7. Vanderbilt's first 3-0 start since 2017. Vanderbilt's first win against South Carolina since 2008. Vanderbilt's first road win against an AP top 25 opponent since 2007, also against South Carolina. The Commodores had lost 31 consecutive road games against AP top 25 opponents. Now, Willie, you don't like to put the cart before the horse? We talked about this last week, Coach Willie. He's one game at a time. But that was a gigantic win for the Commodores on Saturday. And if they can take care of business against Georgia State and Utah State, they could be 5-0 headed to Alabama at the beginning of October. By the way, the Commodores are ranked 20th in the AP poll, their highest ranking since starting 5-0 in 2008. So here's the question I have for Willie. And I'm not sure if Willie's going to answer it or if Coach Willie is going to answer it. But after what you saw on Saturday, coupled with what you saw in the second half, the previous Saturday against Virginia Tech, and by the way, Virginia Tech, got slaughtered by Old Dominion. Cha-ching for me and take it to the bank on Friday. But nevertheless, how high is Vanderbilt's ceiling, Willie?
Well, it's definitely getting higher. They each week are proving the theory that they are a better team at every position than they were last year. And it starts with having that group of players that are back from last year: Pavia, Stowers, Alexander, Patterson, Fontenette. You can go through Martell Height, guys that you got to know last year. But they have added these complementary pieces on the offensive line, on the defensive line, most notably on the outside, these playmakers that they only maybe have 2 or 3 touches in the game, other than Trey Richardson, who is maybe the best of the new guys from the skill position standpoint. But they're so much more talented and deep in a lot of spots that it is very apparent. Now, I know a lot of people probably will look from afar and say Lenora Sellers got concussed late in the first half. Vanderbilt was already ahead at that point, and they had, I thought, taken control of the game. Now with Sellers, you're thinking, well, Sellers could get hot, get it going. And it was an unfortunate play. Patterson, who was called for targeting in a weird sequence of the game, took him a long time before they reviewed for targeting. I thought it was debatable whether that was really targeting or should have been targeting. He hit him just right. He didn't launch into him or anything. He just caught him. It was like an awkward play. And I was quite honestly surprised at how tough that impact was. But I would make the case that Vanderbilt was better than South Carolina, even with Sellers in there. They won the game. They took care of things in the second half, and there was quite a bit of drop-off. You lose Sellers. He's a legit star quarterback. So they got an opportunity there, but it was so impressive nonetheless. The whole Theo Vaughn clip, D-Mace, is happening at the end of the third quarter. That's not something you do in a broadcast and the game's close.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt had such a handle on the game at that point in a raucous atmosphere for the second straight week. It was impressive, their poise and their ability to sort of run their stuff. They were just the better team.
Yeah, it's evident how much better Vandy is on the offensive line. I think that's been the biggest key. The unfortunate part about this is that all those guys are like 5th and 6th year guys. They're older guys.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, you're going to start seeing that more at certain positions in college where I'm opting to get the 5th year guy or the older guy to play on my offensive line or at quarterback than a younger guy. Because we've seen how some of these young guys, Arch Manning, are playing at the quarterback position, or some of these young guys on the offensive line. It's that learning curve now from going from, high school to college. There is a learning curve there, and they're starting to find it out. But that's what I'm excited about. That offensive line, they look like one of the best offensive lines in the country. They're blocking well, not only for the run, but they're blocking well for Pavia. He gets outside the pocket. They know how sort of antsy he is. He can be in the pocket 1 minute, the other minute he's out of the pocket. But they found a way to have that connection where they know when he's in the pocket and they know when he's getting ready to leave the pocket, so they don't hold anybody. This offensive line has been playing tremendous the last 3 games. And I can't see it changing. I know the competition will only get better, but the way this offensive line has played throughout these 3 games has shown me, what Coach Clark is trying to build is happening. And it's starting with the offensive line. The unfortunate part about it is that he's going to have to retool those guys next year.
By the
they're
way,
doing a hell of a job this year.
By the way, we have an update from Diego Pavia. Apparently, the deal with Theo Vaughn was Theo Vaughn could take Diego Pavia's mom on the date if Theo Vaughn sets up Diego Pavia with Tate McRae.
So they would say, if you do this, I do this.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And no
There's always an
disrespect.
adage.
And no disrespect to Diego Pavia's mother, but Tate McRae may be harder to get a hold of. So
Who's Tate McRae?
Tate McRae, she's a famous pop star.
Oh,
And she's probably close to Diego's age, right around there. So
I'm
she's
sure.
college
I'm
age,
sure
so
you've seen her,
contemporary.
Derek.
Yeah.
I'll show you a picture during the
Okay,
break.
okay.
I'll
She's-
find one that's appropriate.
In the hockey circles, Tate McRae is. I think she's Canadian. Is that right?
I
think-
believe
Yes,
she
she's
is.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the hockey circles, she's quite popular up there. But speaking of Pavia, he has been rock solid. Now, he even made one goof up that probably
interception.
and
Yep.
that was a bad decision, and they would have won the game even. They would have had it blown out even earlier had he not done that, which is another piece of evidence of just how much better Vanderbilt was than South Carolina on that day. And so they've got to prove themselves. There's still a ton of really tough games, but Pavia hasn't had to carry them. He's just running the offense. James L. Lassiter, 1 carry, 44 yards. Martell Hike goes in there, catches 1. They've just got a lot of guys that aren't big names, and they
Everybody's
spread the ball.
contributing.
Stowers hasn't had to
Yes.
be like the other team is scheming for
To
Stowers.
take him out, yeah.
He's made key plays at key times, but he hasn't had to be Superman to make it work. They're just running their offense with great success.
Because I saw this a little bit in the South Carolina game. But listen, South Carolina, not all teams have a receiver like what was it? Howes?
Nick Harbor.
Harbor. Nobody
He's a
has a
beast.
receiver
Yeah.
like Nick Harbor. The
Titans
guy
could use
is
that guy.
6'5", runs a 4.3, and can flat. The kid can play. He can play. There were some moments where I thought they were almost conceding because he's such a big presence and he's hard to match up with. They were just like, okay, we're going to concede, the catch, so to speak. I wonder moving forward, how are they going to address once they get into, deep into SEC play where they got to deal with these receivers week in and week out? How are they going to address that?
Yeah,
because
Auburn's got a
that
couple
kid
of
was
them.
good.
Alabama
Yeah,
looks like they're
Alabama,
starting to get it
exactly.
together a little bit here.
So there are teams, and UT, I mean, the way that offense operating, the way those receivers played yesterday, is going to be a tall task for them too, for their secondary, meaning for Vanderbilt secondary. But that's later on down the line. But that's the one thing that I want to know: has coach paid attention to the secondary at this point?
Well, we're going to ask the coach in a minute.
We will have him shortly.
Let me give a quick shout out to a couple of Nashville guys who had unbelievable performances on Saturday. Marcel Reed, Montgomery Bell Academy, big win at Notre Dame.
Huge.
Man, he was
He's
awesome.
in the Heisman race.
He is really. He's done a lot to win
Incredible
that job.
play to
He's
win
played
that game.
great. And London Humphreys,
Another incredible play.
CPA, 2 enormous catches, maybe the 2 biggest catches in the game for Georgia. If he doesn't make either one of them, Tennessee might have enough even without the missed field goal at the end. And what an unbelievable game. I mean, Joey Aguilar, he stood up to all of the, hey, is he for real? Comes out, he went 14 for 14 or something?
Yeah, but then he cooled off.
He did cool off, and, he's flawed a little bit, but they look like they're going to be in there against the big dogs.
Oh, yeah.
615-737-1025. Derek has questions for Clark Lea. Well, good news. Clark Lea is coming up next. We will talk to the Vanderbilt head football coach about the team's win out South Carolina on Saturday. 615-737-1025. Quickly, before we go to break, one texter says, Richie from White House. Vandy is on a roll. They just have to keep their heads cool and focus on the next game. The way Texas is playing, no doubt that Vandy can go to Texas and possibly get that win as well. Arch is not playing well whatsoever, even against these quote-unquote easy teams. Well, they're not going to Texas for a while. But again, the ceiling is high for Vanderbilt, as high as it's been in a long time. And I know Willie doesn't want to put the cart before the horse. I even texted him horse emoji, shopping cart emoji, arrow emoji, horse emoji. No response from Willie Donick. But he doesn't want to put the cart before the horse. But that's another discussion. Clark Lea will join us next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Happy Monday, everyone. This is Derek Mason. And if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you in an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
Litter Robot has now solved the litter box.
Dean Base, Vingan and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at the Circus Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. We will be joined momentarily by Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lea. Kevin on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, on the Vols. Said the Vols lost because Josh Heupel turned into Brian Callahan, calling 3 straight run plays after a turnover with 8 minutes left in the head, 35-30. That was a disheartening loss, to say the least, for Tennessee, considering how incredibly efficient they were to start the game. Joey Aguilar, 14 consecutive completions? It was...
Yeah, they jumped him. They jumped him early. You had a feeling, though, that Georgia wasn't just going to lay down. But we'll get to that one. That was a heck of a game.
We will get to that. But we are pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lea. Clark, I just want you to know that your team's performance Saturday was so impressive that it compelled Willie Donick to perform karaoke in celebration.
I did. And I did have a Vanderbilt shirt on when I did it. So,
well, I need a video of that, Willie.
I'm hoping that there's none.
Well, Clark, I see the win against South Carolina on Saturday similarly to how I saw the win against Alabama last season. It feels like a formative moment in your program's development. And I know that you prefer us to handle these big picture conversations, but how would you describe the significance of the win on Saturday at South Carolina?
A culmination of belief, and hard work. I mean, I don't know that anyone internally was surprised or caught off guard by the way we played. We knew we needed to play well. We knew it was a tough environment. That's a good South Carolina team. We've been talking about that game since we played them last year. We felt like we underrepresented ourselves, and I don't know. I've brought it up to the team 2 or 3 times with some highlights and some other things, just to say, these are the games that we want to define us, a chance for us to start 1-0 in the conference, and again, just to keep chasing the expectations we've set of where we want to be when the season ends. So it was a good result for us, a good night, and I'm proud of the team for that. And like you said, it lives on Saturday, it dies on Sunday. We were focused on Georgia State now and excited for the challenge they present.
Clark, Jordan Rogers was on the call on Saturday, and he kept referring to a conversation he had with Tim Beck, where Tim described the run game last season as, in Jordan's words, vanilla, quote unquote. In what ways have Tim and the offensive coaching staff diversified the rushing attack this season that's led to the success you're having in that area?
Well, first of all, Tim is so creative and such a good play caller and play designer, and obviously we're having success because he's designing it right, calling it right, and our players are executing it, and they're talented. And so I think anyone who watched us play a year ago, wouldn't look at our offense ever and say they're vanilla, because there's so many things, so many elements, formations, motions, personnel groupings that make it complex. But we've added some gap scheme into like our repertoire, and we've worked on that since January, and we have a physical offensive line, and that one added element. Now, again, that I say gap scheme, and that that's a series of different plays, different people pulling that diversifies the attack. So there's a little more complexity that way. I also think it's a very good complement to what we do with our inside zone schemes. You add the motions and formations into that, and it feels like a lot for the defense to prepare for.
We're talking to Vanderbilt's head football coach Clark Lee, coming off a impressive win versus South Carolina. Now, Coach, you guys at this past game did a tremendous job on 3rd and 4th down. Combined, you were 7 of 13. How much of that do you attribute to the guys more entrenched in the offense and knowing what to do? Because as you know, it only takes one guy to mess up on a particular play, especially on offense, and it throws the play off. But it seems like on these 3rd downs, when they're 3rd and longs, you're either getting a big run by your running back or your quarterback in the offensive line is doing a tremendous job at protecting them one, and then the quarterback getting it downfield.
I think you're covering it all there. I mean, there's an execution element on those critical downs, those conversion downs that you have to hit. And, I was looking back at the 21 game against South Carolina, because sometimes as coaches, you just enjoy the torture of remembering your worst moments. But, we had a 4-minute drive at the end of that game where we were a 1st down away from kneeling the game out. And on I think it was 1st and 10, we ran a counter play and had a run through on the backside that tackled the ball in the backfield. That set the course for us, ended up kicking a field goal to go up 6, and the rest is history. And in that play on a run through, I mean, there's a rule that should cover that guy being blocked. That shouldn't happen. And it's an example of us not being synced up. And that's whether that's teaching, coaching, execution in the moment. We've avoided a lot of those mistakes. And so that's part of being a good team is you in those critical downs, you lean on your training, you execute the call, and you give your playmakers a chance to make plays. We tend to play a 3rd and kind of 1 to 4 game, just about nature of staying ahead of the chains on 1st and 2nd down. That benefits us on conversion down. But also on Saturday, we had some longer yardage 3rd downs where, Diego was able to push the ball down the field and find Eli, or, create and find Trey. I mean, there were some really high level plays made by those guys that I think also gave us what we needed to keep the drive alive. For us, that's so important because it feeds into our strategy of point limitation, of game control offense. And we're going to need to lean on that if we're going to get where we want to go.
Now, when Sellers ended up going out of the game and Doty came in, did you have to change much from a defensive standpoint? Because their number one target, Nick Harbor, is still out there. But did you have to change much on defense because they brought in a new quarterback?
We didn't, because obviously we had prepared for quarterback runs and some things that we felt like were a specific style that Lenore Sellers plays. I mean, he's got certain things that make him dynamic, and we spend a lot of time in the week kind of understanding how his strengths force us to, have certain structures, certain leverage points, and tackle a certain way. And obviously those things get thrown out once he's out of the game. But the guy they brought in, Doty, was also a very good athlete. We knew that coming into the game. I think he's a little more of a cutter than Sellers is. And so, there was a little different kind of strategy around how to bottle the quarterback up. And I thought he did a really nice job coming in, first of all, and playing confident in the passing game, but also extending plays with his legs. We stuck to our plan because on the whole, like you mentioned, there was a lot that was built around some of the weapons that were on the perimeter. And so we were able to stay true to that. And once we built the lead, we knew they had to throw to beat us. And so it allowed us to, kind of dial up some coverages that we felt like put us in a good position to win the game.
Clark Lee is with us after Vanderbilt's 31-7 win at South Carolina. Clark, one thing I noticed about your offense in particular, like we talked to Eli Stowers last week, we know he's probably capable of having a 7 to 8 catch game, but you've got a lot of guys who are making the most of the touches. It's really spread around a lot. A guy gets one touch and is making a really good play for it. There's a lot of guys contributing, and so you've got to have some unselfishness in there and not really care who gets the credit.
Certainly that. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in our Sunday meetings this year just talking about how we have to maintain a sense of connection and mission focus, because inevitably, as you start to play games, that's when the selfishness really presents. And our strengths, our ultimate edge is our relatedness. It's our connection, and we can't lose that. I think you can lose that almost more easily in the success than you can when you're facing adversity, just because adversity tends to galvanize you. And so we're being very conscious of that. I will say, I think 10 guys carried the ball on Saturday, 7 caught passes. We played 71 players against Virginia Tech. We played 69 players against South Carolina. And to put that in perspective, that means 69 of the 74 that traveled with us to Columbia saw time on the field. Those things are meaningful, not only because there's that game experience for a lot of people, and there are a lot of people impacting winning, but this is also about how we set ourselves up to play really well late in the year. So taking snaps off some of the starters, being able to get a bunch of guys in the game is going to allow us to stay healthy. And hopefully even in this week, as we prepare for a tough Georgia State team, we have a fresher team because of the fact that more people are contributing on Saturdays.
D-Mace mentioned the targeting on Sellers, and one conversation I was having with the people I was watching the game with, targeting has been around for well over a decade now, and I feel like players in general have learned what you can't do, what they were trying to take out of the game. There's been a number, and I think Patterson's one would be in this category of, it's sort of incidental. It's not a technique thing. It just sort of happens, and it's going to happen some in football. It's not malicious in my mind. And so the penalty is very punitive where a guy gets thrown out of the game. It's so unfortunate, obviously, that Sellers left the game as well, but he just caught him just right. How much discussion of that rule goes in and year out of how it's evolving with targeting?
There's a lot, honestly, and it's complicated. I wish it was a little more straightforward. I know that it's not the intent to make it confusing and kind of murky, but it's just inevitably we're trying to keep players safe, which is obviously everyone's priority. And we've done a lot to coach some of these contact points out of the game, which I'm really proud of that. I think the game is safer now than it's ever been. And this year there's an emphasis around protecting the quarterback. I think with every year, we're trying to get closer to how the NFL officiates around that position, which I support that too. I think ultimately on Saturday, I'm gonna get feedback on that play from the SEC office just to know how I can better coach it. I didn't see anything that was with the intent to go to the head and neck area. I didn't necessarily see a launch or forcible contact there. But I do understand at the end of the day that when you make contact high, you're going to leave it to chance, and there's going to be a review, and ultimately that review tipped against Langston in that moment. So there's some layers to that. There's some complexity there. I think the officials have a hard job. I think they're doing the best they can to keep our game safe. And what I want to point out in this instance is I've seen so many players in my time, fall victim, or I shouldn't say that way, but called in targeting, have to leave the game to get kicked out, and it becomes about them. They sit on the bench with a towel on their head. They disengage from the game because they can't get over, they're victimized by the circumstance. Langston Patterson, all he does is take ownership, take responsibility, put his helmet away, and became the best coach on the sideline. I mean, he was phenomenal in the way he responded, and that's what you want to see from a captain. That's what you want to see from a team member. And I think that's an example of the level of investment our players have in our program. And I'm really proud of how Langston handled himself in that adversity.
Clark, I'm not going to give you enough time to answer this the way you want to. We only got about a minute here, but I noticed that you gave a shout out to your coach, Bobby Johnson. Those who have been watching Vanderbilt football for a long time, like I have, I'm getting old, know what he did to sort of build the program, the foundation of some of the good years, snapped the, 26-year drought of bowl games while he was there. And I know how much you feel for him, and you honored him, the South Carolina native, if you will, after the game.
It was so meaningful. Thank you for bringing this up, Willie. I appreciate it. He's one of the all-time greats, and again, a guy that doesn't get enough credit for what he did. I mean, I want he and Catherine to know they're such an important part of this Vanderbilt community and the history of this program, and the opportunity he gave me here, how he coached me, how he methodically built this program where he wasn't resourced in a way that allowed him to be successful. I mean, I used to watch these guys line the field and cut the grass and all of it. I can't say enough. Like you said, there's not enough time, but I love Coach Johnson, love Catherine. They're with us, and it was so special to be able to honor them on Saturday night.
Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, as he is every Monday. Clark, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the win on Saturday. Good luck against Georgia State this Saturday at home.
Thanks, guys, and just go ahead and send that video on over, Willie. I'll look forward to it.
We're going to have to be in the trust tree, Clark. I don't want this being posted around the Vanderbilt things. There might just keep your phone on.
We're in the tree, buddy. We're in the tree.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Clark.
See you guys.
Vanderbilt, the 20th ranked Vanderbilt Commodores, will host Georgia State on Saturday, 6:30 p.m. start. Georgia State defeated Vanderbilt last season, so the Commodores will be looking for some retribution there, as the Commodores are ranked 20th, their highest ranking in almost 20 years, since 2008. By the way,
Really? They never got higher than under Jimmy Franklin?
no,
Man.
Jimmy Frank?
at least according to ESPN, their highest ranking since starting 5-0 in 2008.
That was when game day came. I remember that. They beat Auburn. That was a Bobby Johnson moment.
Quickly, before we go to break, I thought this text from Matthew from Jolton is perfect for Derek Mason. Matthew writes, quote, "Never thought I'd see the day that Michigan is ranked lower than Vanderbilt."
Thank you. That just made my day.
Derek, I haven't seen Derek this happy all day.
Yes. Van Diego down, baby.
615-737-1025. We will get back into the Titans, who lost 33-19 to the LA Rams on Sunday. And there is an issue that the Titans seem incapable of correcting. What the hell is going on? We'll attempt to answer that question. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
All right, let's talk F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. We take it to the bank every Friday at 5:45. Thanks to our friends at F&M Bank, who really work very, very hard. Here we are broadcasting up at Franklin, Kentucky, and that is one of the areas that F&M Bank has. They go up into northern Kentucky. They're in Hopkinsville. They've got a ton of resources over in Clarksville with 6 locations. They've got 20 all told in our listening area, so chances are there is one near you. So find out where that location is and then check them out. myfmbank.com. F&M Bank, lots of tools to make your life easier regardless of where you are on the financial spectrum. If you're just looking for tools to succeed and make life a little bit easier, your business means more to them. myfmbank.com. It's F&M Bank. We take it to the bank Fridays at 5:45 and have a lot of fun. We appreciate our partnership with F&M Bank. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
D. Mace Fingan and Donick 1025, The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie, Derek, and I are live at the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. The Monday Night Football doubleheader begins at 6 o'clock. Buccaneers at Texans, followed by the nightcap Chargers at Raiders. So if you're looking for a place to watch the games and you happen to be nearby, it's only roughly a 30-ish minute drive from our neck of the woods, Willie, East Nashville, straight up 65.
Yep.
So if you're looking for a place
Super
to
easy.
catch the Monday Night Football action, a doubleheader tonight, may I recommend the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall here in Franklin,
No doubt.
Kentucky. By the way, Matthew from Jolton texted back in. He's the one that said, never thought I'd see the day that Michigan is ranked lower than Vanderbilt. Ask D-Mace, which is on Friday, not Monday. Ask D-Mace what Michigan State is ranked. I didn't see little brother in the top 25.
Hey, listen, we hadn't lost the game either. Michigan has two, may I add, two of them. They lost twice.
I believe Michigan is against Michigan State is facing USC this
We'll
weekend.
beat them. Yeah, I ain't worried about that.
Maybe that's a silly underdog pick later
yeah.
this week.
Depending
Derek's on the
what-
board.
It's hard for me to pick my own team in silly underdogs. I can't. Do that.
I get
can't
it.
do it.
I
Can't
get
do
it. But that's on Wednesday. Gino on our text line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, says Clark Lee sounds 100 times more competent than Brian Callahan. Proud of Vandy, but says a lot about the state of the Titans right now. Plus, Lee is on time and not constantly late.
Constantly late.
Brian Callahan tends to arrive to his news conferences a little later than the scheduled
Okay,
time.
I have noticed that. I have noticed, but he's not the only coach that does.
Exactly.
It is interesting though, because I asked Clark Lee about Brian Callahan. They are very, very close friends. We're
Yes.
in each other's weddings. They go way, way back to the very, very beginning. They've known each other a long time. They have a ton of respect for one another. I would point out that Clark Lee, after not last year, but the year before last, he was getting criticized pretty heavily. They didn't look the sharpest.
No.
They weren't very talented, and they had some goof ups. I think he'd be the first to tell you that didn't look good. They were not super competitive, and he was at a crossroads, and they've done some amazing things since then. But you can see as he's raised the talent level, he looks a little bit smarter as a coach, and his program has really come around. I don't think you can rule that out with Callahan. I continue to emphasize how tough it is to win in the NFL when you have as little talent as they have.
And perhaps one of the issues that happens when you don't have a lot of talent is you commit a lot of penalties.
And we debated this before the season started, is how much of penalties is coaching and how much is just a less talented team is more prone to penalties.
Well, let's ask Derek Mason that question.
A lot of it has to do with just discipline. Whether you are a less talented team than the other team or more experienced than the other team, a lot of it is just discipline. I'm sure that Brian Callahan isn't coaching these mistakes. He's not coaching the right tackle to false start twice. He's not coaching, guys to do certain things. It's happening. The unfortunate part about it is that, who are they going to turn to? It's not like, you do this too many times, we can go get somebody. No, they can't. This has to be fixed from within. And it's all about discipline, holding your water. Those are things that coaches and players hate after a while, pre and post snap penalties, because you can control that. You can control what goes on in the middle of the game, but like a holding call, okay, every once in a while, they can call holding on every play if they want to. Every once in a while, you get the holding calls, or if you're out of position, that's something I can teach, get you in better position so you won't hold anymore. But those pre and post snaps, man, that's all about discipline.
By the way, the Titans did not do as poorly in this department as they did in Denver, where they committed 13 penalties for 131 yards. They only committed 10 penalties for 62 yards. So it's progress, right? But by my quick math, that's 23 penalties for 193 yards over the first 2 games of the season. And Brian Callahan was asked yesterday after the game about the fact that despite harping on it all off season long, the Tennessee Titans have been unable to figure out this issue. Here's what Brian Callahan had to say.
What's the disconnect between the penalties and all the emphasis that you guys had about the sense of the offseason?
You know, it's something that I'm still trying to figure out. You know, I think we had a couple false starts today. We had just an illegal lineman downfield on the first drive, which is, you just got to come flatter on the screenplay, and just things that are just frustrating. It's very frustrating to be in that spot. It's obviously something that we had a problem with last year. It was a problem before. It's still a problem, and we're trying like hell to get it fixed. And so far, we haven't been successful at doing that.
So I heard that, and I was reminded of, a famous line from The Simpsons, because you can pull anything from The Simpsons. And when I heard that, I thought to myself, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. That's what I heard from Brian Callahan.
Well, let me, because the pre-snap stuff is one that comes up a lot. The legal man downfield, that's an interesting one there, because I was thinking to myself on that play, how in the world did a guy get down the field with that quick? Because Cam Ward grabbed it, he chucked it, it was out. How did he get down the field?
By the way, 3 Titans penalties on the first 8 plays from scrimmage.
Right. That was something. And then, of course, they got the illegal block one, which was debatable on the punt return touchdown. They went up and scored. So I didn't think they were as costly yesterday. But let me throw this one at you, D-Mace, for my theory of a less talented team is more prone to penalties. Let's take Ojokwu. Ojokwu knows he is attempting to block a really, really tough edge rusher, right? So the false start, like if I know, like I'm going to relate it to basketball. If I know you're quicker than me, and there were times where that guy, what's the guy's name? I forget. Young is his name, right? For the Rams. He just blew right around.
Yeah.
He's quicker. He's going to run right around him. He doesn't have to do a move or a swim or anything. He's just going. So Ojokwu knows he's got to anticipate the snap count. He's got to get a great jump or he has no chance of blocking. Same thing with Dan Moore on the other side. So like in basketball, if I'm guarding somebody quicker than me, and D-Mace, I think back in the day, you might have been quicker than me, but if I'm guarding you, I've had to anticipate. I have to know, does he like to go right? And I have to anticipate to make up for it. And so I might even have to hand check a little bit, see what the ref will get away with. But you see what I'm saying? Like that's where some of the pre-snap, it's not like he doesn't know the snap count. He's trying to anticipate and do the best he can to block somebody who is better than him.
He doesn't trust the technique, which means he's not a disciplined player. That's basically.
But if he's disciplined and he's getting blown by and the quarterback gets killed,
well, then
it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I guess so. But I would rather him be disciplined, and we can work on a technique.
It's not good.
We can work on a way to try to get you more, at an angle where you can hit that guy or at least get your hands initially on him and then be able to gather. But pre and post, it has everything to do with discipline. Because my thing is, I know where I'm going, you don't know where I'm going. So the only way you will know where I'm going is if I'm undisciplined and I start to tilt. And typically when you start to tilt, illegal procedure, false start. If you just hang in there, you don't know what I'm doing. I got to trust my technique and trust that I would. And if I don't get out there the first time, then okay, I know the second time I got to adjust a little bit, but for me to try to anticipate it like that, because you never know what goes on. And then the offensive lineman, defensive lineman, they're talking, their hand gestures and all this. It takes one little something like that to make you jump, because now you're already anticipating on moving a little bit too early. Just trust what you're being taught and be disciplined, because 9 times out of 10, your discipline is going to help you win that battle.
Byron Young, by the way, heck of an edge rusher. Number 8, 3rd round pick.
Okay. The Rams said, F them picks. They meant first round picks. They meant first round picks.
The Titans would kill for a 3rd round pick to be as good as that guy. That guy's a really good player. Puka Nacua is a 5th round pick.
Right.
That guy's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
They have drafted very smart. They got other guys too like that.
The the major issue when it comes to the penalties, specifically with Brian Callahan, is Brian Callahan is being afforded zero grace by the Tennessee Titans fan base.
They're all over him.
Understandably so. The Titans are what? 3-16.
3-16.
3-16 under Brian Callahan's watch. And we can talk about the talent in the roster and whether any coach could squeeze more wins out of this team. We can have all of those conversations. We've had all of those conversations, and we will continue to have all of those conversations. But at the end of the day, if you go to Brian Callahan's Pro Football Reference page, record 3-16. He wears it. And Brian Callahan's offseason program, a significant portion of it was to eliminate what's happening on the field right now with all of these penalties. So Brian Callahan, who again has zero leeway with the fans of this team. He spent all offseason preaching about putting together the teams and keeping track of points. And I don't want to get too much into that. But the point is, there were plenty of people who were skeptical of that idea to begin with. And to see the Titans, again, through 2 games, let me do my quick math here, 23 penalties for 193 yards. It just does not reflect well on the head coach. And look, we've got some texters on our text line. You know, Jackson says if he's undisciplined, I don't know who he's referring to here. If he's undisciplined and has bad technique, then he should not be out there. Jeff says, guys, penalties are a discipline issue. That makes it a coaching issue. The issues are mounting on the coach and his staff. You know, I'm not sure what percentage of penalties you can blame on the coach versus the player. It's always an interesting conversation to see just how much of an impact.
I want to tell you something.
Go ahead.
Realistically, if you just want to keep it 100, you can't blame it on the coach.
You
can't blame the penalty. How does a coach tell an offensive lineman, hey, false start?
Of course not.
Do a coach tell a lineman, hey, grab,
hold him.
hold him? Do a coach tell a receiver, hey, block and hold him right here?
But,
do a coach tell a quarterback, hey, throw, get an intentional grounder right here? I understand.
But isn't it the coach's responsibility to teach players how not to do all of those things?
No, I don't believe that's. Listen, they're professionals. They know this.
Listen, that what you're saying, and don't get me wrong. I understand what the callers are saying and what the fans are concerned about. I do.
You have a unique perspective, so
yes.
I'm curious.
That's why I look at it and say, no matter how many times I tell you not to do that as a player. Coaches, they preach this. You don't know how many times they sit in meetings. No false starts. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot. We can't. All these things, slogans, everything. They say these things about 1 million times a day. No lie. Seriously, they say it about 1 million times a day. So much so you hear it in your sleep. Don't false start. Don't hold. Don't do that. Make sure you. So when I say you can't blame the coaches, I know in the big scheme of things, like, hey, listen, it all falls on the coach. I get it. Sometimes it is, sometimes it doesn't. Just like the quarterback. Sometimes you don't deserve all the praise. Sometimes you do. You don't deserve all the the boos either. Sometimes you do. A head coach is the same way. Listen, I am teaching you not to do these things, and I put you out on the field because for the most part, you showed that you won't do these things. But then when you do them, how is that my fault? I'm telling you not to. I get what everybody's saying. I understand that part. But if you go out there and the guy is running down the field and I horse collar you, is that the coach's fault? If I block you on a punt return, is that the coach's fault? Because Bones went over that. I'm sure Bones went over that before a bunch of times, and the rules and everything. And they constantly go over it.
Yeah.
So is it their fault? Is it the coach's fault? I get what people are saying, but let's not make this some Brian Callahan just don't know what he's doing.
I agree with that. And I would add that it's not like you could say the old school thing. Well, then don't take him out of the game.
Yeah. Can't
Well,
do that
who are you going to put in?
John Ojukwu.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. John Ojukwu cannot block Byron Young or Kobe Turner or those guys. He can't block
Burst?
them.
No.
Same thing with, Dan Moore. Honestly, he's not as good. I thought he would be better. He's got to play better.
Trevor Matich had some harsh words for his technique last week.
Of course.
He's terrible.
We'll see what he says
He-
tomorrow.
He's got to be better. And we heard this, right? But I was like, come on. He's got to be better than what we've seen. He's really not. He's getting blown by. And my point is, when you are slower and not as good as the guy lined up against you, you are more prone to foul. I know this, having played guard in the SEC, right? You got to figure it out, or else you're not going to be in there that much, right?
But I know
you're more prone to
I
penalties.
know what the callers are saying. I know what the texters are saying. So don't get me wrong, everybody. I know what you mean by what you're saying. But real talk, the coach talks about this stuff all the time. Like coaches, like we spend so much time just going over all these things, what you can't do, what you can do. They go over it at nauseum. But once they put you out on the field, they're hoping that because I've drilled this in your head so many times that you're going to go out there and you're not going to do those things. Now, some plays you're going to have penalties, you're going to have them. It is what it is. But again, when it comes to the pre and post snap, I've grilled you so much and drilled this in your head. Why are you doing this? That has nothing to do with the coach because he's doing his job.
615-737-1025. We will continue this conversation on the other side. We will get to your reaction as well. The Tennessee Titans, they can't stop taking penalties. To their credit, they cut it down from 13 to 10 yesterday. So that's progress. That's progress. So we'll get to your reaction next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Derek Mason here, and if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We are live at the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. Thanks to them for their wonderful hospitality once again. We'll be up here on a regular basis. You should come check it out. A short drive up 65 from downtown Nashville. So we're talking penalties because the Titans keep taking a lot of them. And we're having a spirited debate about who's to blame for the penalties. Is it a coaching issue? Is it a talent issue? And I want to acknowledge something because I do think it's important to look back and realize the things that you have said in the past. So when Will Levis was Levising all over himself last season, I did not place the blame squarely at Brian Callahan's feet for that. Because the things that Levis was doing, they were clinically insane, the plays he was making. This is not that, at least to me. This is basic technique, no? False starts and defensive offsides and holding. This is basic technique, right? I mean, I'm asking the two of you, I'm asking the all-pro wide receiver and the high-level college athlete. So, because I have none of those things. I don't have an athletic bone in my body.
They can do better. They're don't get me wrong. They can do better. But sometimes I think the choice, like if they were like, let's take the Raiders way back in the day. They used to pride themselves on being the intimidating, push the envelope. There are hockey teams that are like this that just know they're going to take extra penalties. But it's in the name of intimidation and being physical and things like that, trying to just bully you. And they're willing to take one. This is not that. No. This is, to me, much more of my choice is I'm getting blown by a quicker player. And my choices on some of these plays, I have to hold or my quarterback is going to get killed. And what's worse? Like, it's tough. There have been plays where Dan Moore held and gave up a sack. It's happened twice. It's happened once each week.
They declined the holding call.
He's had 2 holding penalties. He's lucky.
I know.
It's happened.
It's bad when you have to commit a penalty and you still get beat for the sack.
And again, who else are you going to put in? A guy that's even worse than Dan Moore. This is the dilemma for the coaching staff because you can tell him, all right, just I don't want to hold. No matter what you do, don't hold. Well, then he's going to get sacked more.
Let's go to Mike on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Mike, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Can I ask a kind of a different question about drafts?
Sure.
Go ahead.
And it's about Cam Ward. Let's say Cam Ward held out and said, I'm not going to Tennessee, even though I'm the number 1 pick. And then I hold out for a year, but I still have to go to the worst team in the NFL. Whereas college players now have NIL and portal transfers now, they can kind of go where they want to go and make money. As Cam Ward, being the number 1 pick, was forced to come to Tennessee because we picked him, and now we're 0-2. Everybody's calling for the coaches to be fired, and that poor kid now is trying the best he can. Why isn't the NFL is forcing these great players to go to the worst teams?
Thank you, Mike.
Well, that's why the NFL has been around forever, because when you are the worst team, you are afforded the first pick, which in their minds should get you a good player, which makes you a better team. That's why this league has so much parity in it. Some leagues, it's not like that. It's, we're going to pick the worst teams, but we're going to send you through a lottery. And the worst team may end up getting the 15th pick. And that's not helping the worst team become a better team. It's helping the worst team become even more worse the next following year. I think the NFL does a great job. And I get what you're saying, whether it's, Cam Ward, Caleb Williams last year, or any future, first pick in the NFL draft. The fortunate part about it is that you get to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft amongst everybody. Everybody don't get that honor, okay? It's 1 a year. That's it. But the bad part about it is you're getting drafted by what seemed to be the worst team that year. That's just something that, the NFL, they're not going to change it. And I don't expect them to change it. So it's just unfortunate that, when you get the first pick and you draft a quarterback, there's going to be some growing pains unless you've done a good job at drafting in previous years and those young players are now starting to develop and you just had a bad season the previous year, but you got some talent on that roster. Well, unfortunately for the Titans, that didn't happen. They don't have that much talent on the roster enough to win consistently. I hope they do as the years go on, as the drafts come. I hope they are able to accumulate those guys, but right now they just don't. So,
well, I hope that answers your question.
yeah, I
Mike.
hope it answers your question. I know it was a long-winded one, but I mean, you should love, if you love the NFL, you love that it's this way because your team gets an opportunity to be great that next following year.
One texter asks, my question is, who vetted these linemen? Bill Callahan, Chad Brinker? It's 2 years in a row now, so Rand can't be blamed. However it is, Brinker needs to be fired. Dan Moore is the most overpaid lineman in the NFL.
And I think you knew when you signed him that he was going to be. He was going to be in that overpaid. But I still think he's got to be better than he's played. Now, let's see how it looks when they're not facing the Rams and the Broncos. I do think if you could pick two of the, let's say you could pick five of the best edge rushing teams in the league, front fours, however you want to do it, those two teams are probably on paper in the top five. So I think Dan Moore, hopefully will look better week in and week out as maybe he's got a little bit better matchup. And it's very difficult right now because J.C. Latham, who is the guy that you're really building around, wasn't there, right? And then they lost Zeitler. There's been he didn't go out until pretty late, but there was a false start on the guy. I'm like, wait, who's that? Hence. I was like, what? I've never heard of this. Blake Hance, never heard of this guy.
But Dan Moore's gonna have to play. He's because right now he's playing like Dillard.
Yeah.
He's playing like Dillard.
It's not much different.
And I'm not going to say
he's getting paid more.
Yeah, and you're getting paid. He's getting paid much more than Dillard was getting paid. So much more.
I do not see any sort of injury update on Kevin Zeitler, so I assume that means no news is good news.
But he's playing Dillard. He's playing Dillard level of tackle.
Yuck.
There you go. And that position needs to start showing itself. It really does, because it hadn't showed itself in 2 years, going on 3 with Moore. And if Moore don't pick it up, man, you have a right. I'm going to say this. If Moore doesn't show that he's developing in this offense and getting better, that is an indictment on everybody on the offensive side of the ball.
But as we've discussed, you knew what you were getting when you signed Dan Moore, because the best left tackles in the NFL don't reach free agency. He was the best, if I recall correctly. He was the best available left tackle in free agency.
Yep.
So when you sign a player
and
in
there
free
weren't a
agency,
whole lot of people that had anywhere close to his credentials as a starter. So it was like when you go to the grocery store and you need an apple, and there's like 4 apples and 3 of them are kind of mashed up. You're like, I'm not buying those 3 apples. There's one decent apple. You're like, it's not the perfect apple,
but I need an apple.
But I have to go get that apple. And if there's 5 people wanting to pay for that apple, you got to pay more. Maybe.
Right.
That's kind of what happened.
No pun intended. You do have to pay more. They did pay more.
They paid more.
They paid
more for more.
Yes, they paid more for more.
What I meant to say, it's not an indictment.
And they got less.
And got less.
It's not an indictment on the offense. It's an indictment on 3 individuals, really 4. Brian Callahan, Bill Callahan, Brinker, and Borgonzi. Those 4. That's who Dan Moore is on. Because y'all went out and scouted him, Brian Callahan said, "Yep, he's my guy." Bill Callahan said, "Yep, he just got." So all four of y'all are in this. If this doesn't work, then yeah, y'all need to answer for it. All four of y'all.
I'm looking to see what his grade was yesterday on Pro Football Focus.
It wasn't a passing grade. I know they didn't give him a passing grade.
One texter said they could have drafted a better left tackle. Well, they drafted J.C. Latham to play left tackle.
He's at right now.
And now he's at right tackle and not playing because he has a hip injury.
But what does this lead me back to? What am I going to say?
The bad drafts.
Well, the bad drafts, yes, but also what did I think they should have done? They didn't have enough picks to take a tackle and a quarterback and a receiver. And
I think they should have
taken extra picks.
Trade it. Willie. No, we got
the Giants.
We got Cam, Willie.
The Giants put up 37 points yesterday.
The Giants are 0-2
in a losing effort.
Yep.
But
the Giants are going to have a top 10 pick. That could have been the Titans.
Are we going to have to hear about this for the next 16
well,
weeks?
I'm just the way the Titans going, they're going to have a top 10 pick.
They could have had two, I guess.
They could potentially get two because they may end up with the number one pick.
Well, this is what's going on, and then I think the conversation
they
around
ain't
Jefferson
going to end up with the number one pick. Let me not say that. Words are powerful. They're not going to end up with the number one pick.
Do you think things will get better? I think it's too early. They've got it.
I think things will get better in terms of them getting to the playoffs. Probably not. More than likely, no. But get better as far as them not being the worst team in the league. Yeah, I think it's going to get better.
I mean, there are some bad teams out there.
And they are one of them.
And they are one of them. Matthew from Jolton has a question. I did this exercise, Matthew. How many Titans first-round picks from 2010 through now are still... Oh, okay. He wants to know how many Titans first-round picks from 2010 through now are still on an NFL 53-man roster.
From 2010?
Yeah, that'll take some work.
Yeah,
but remember, I did this...
2010 are like 45 years old, aren't they?
Yes. Let me see. Now, I would take nobody.
Well, I did a similar
It
exercise.
may be one. No, it's nobody.
No, I did a similar exercise a couple of weeks ago looking at the number of top 100 picks that the Titans made between 2020 and 2024. How many of those top 100 picks were were on the initial 53-man roster? 5 of 16. That tells you all you need to know.
Yeah. Just go to Pro Football Reference and look up Titans drafts year by year.
And that'll tell you.
And then look at the Rams and look at the Chiefs and look at some other good teams where they're finding players. Teams that don't have high picks. They're just doing a better job of scouting and evaluating the talent.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction on the Titans' loss to the Rams yesterday. We will wrap up the show. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, this is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose some weight, chances are it's not your first time setting this goal to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But check this out, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize, keyword, customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you live at the Circa Sportsbook inside the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. Just a short drive up 65 from downtown Nashville. A Monday Night Football doubleheader tonight. So if you are looking for an awesome spot to watch the games, come on up to, not come on down because most of you would be coming up. Come on up to the Circa Sportsbook at the Mint Gaming Hall in Franklin, Kentucky. Gigantic screens, plush chairs, good food. So thank you once again for their hospitality.
Can I address one that came in our YouTube chat line that I think is a good question?
Absolutely.
And it was referenced in the last segment, but I would love to hear D. Mace talk about this. Again, comes down to this. What we're trying to get to is how much of the shortcomings, and they've been exposed in the first two games, and it really shouldn't surprise people. I think people in May were looking at things and saying, hey, those first two games are going to be tough. Tim says on our YouTube chat, I'm over here waiting for the supposed online guru to show up and start fixing these online problems. These O-line problems, sorry. I keep hearing we have one of those on staff. So the philosophical question is, how much can be expected from the coaches to elevate the bad roster? So let's take the O-line specifically, because that was what was billed a lot, is Bill Callahan has done a lot to develop offensive linemen, and you're certainly not seeing it right now.
No, you're not. And, this is sort of the unfortunate part about sort of the double-edged sword. Let's not say unfortunate. It's a double-edged sword because you got Bill Callahan, who many regards as one of the greatest offensive line coaches, especially in today's game now. So he's touted as being that on one hand, but then on the other end, it's like, well, we have this coach, and since he's been here, our offensive line hadn't gotten any better. So yeah, we have what seemed to have been, based upon his track record, one of the best offensive line coaches, but our offensive line hadn't been doing good for the last 2 years. Something isn't quite clicking between his expertise and trying to get those guys and put them in a position where they can succeed. Did I believe, or do I believe he can get this offensive line to look better? Yes, but maybe, just maybe, not with these guys, not with all these guys. The Titans for years have been playing musical chairs with this tackle position. And for the last 3 years, it hadn't worked. And you supposedly brought in the best guy to try to fix what has been ailing this team for the last 2 to 3 years, and he hadn't been able to get it fixed. So what does that tell you? Is it him, or is it him? And I said that for this reason. Is it him because he can't coach it? Is it him because he evaluated those guys and said they were good enough, bring them on?
Well, I think, too, while we're just kind of going through under the hood, all these decisions they made to try and fix the offensive line, the move to take the best that was out there in Dan Moore and slide Latham over. Latham, clearly is not himself. That's a big thing. If they're not going to have him for a while, then you have Dan Moore on one side, and you've got the dregs and the replacements. But you hope that Latham will turn into a really good right tackle.
Yes.
Right? That's what you're hoping.
Yes.
And it's too early to know what that is. And Latham's still only 22 years old. I'm not hearing a whole lot about Skoronski. I'm assuming he's doing okay. They are run blocking reasonably well.
Yeah, the run blocking is good, but I think from the guard to the guard position, they're doing a good job. I think Cushenberry, his will come. I think a lot of his is the injury, him getting over the injury. So I think the middle of their offensive line is good. It's the two edges once again.
So according to Pro Football Focus, here are some of the numbers for the offensive line through 2 games. Dan Moore and Lloyd Cushenberry have identical numbers. They both allowed 6 pressures. They've both allowed 3 hurries. They've both allowed 2 quarterback hits, and they've both allowed 1 sack apiece.
Do they have run blocking grades for those
Yeah,
guys?
they do.
These are really hard. I've given a lot of thought about like Pro
Peter
Football Focus.
Skoronsky has the best run blocking grade and the best pass blocking grade. Peter Skoronsky has allowed 2 pressures and 2 hurries, 0 quarterback hits, and 0 sacks.
He's the
in 2
best
games.
offensive lineman on.
That's
on
why
the
you're
line
not
right
hearing
now.
much about Peter Skoronsky
Yes.
because he's
Yeah.
performing well. With some players, it's often said the less you hear about them, the better.
Right.
Peter Skoronsky, I think, fits into that category.
And when you're talking about an offensive line, I look at a unit. It's really hard. Like it's one thing for me to do the analytics on a pitcher versus a batter, where you're only talking about 2 people. But when there's 22 guys in the field, it's hard. It's got to be hard for Pro Football Focus, as hard as they try, and I'm sure it's gotten a lot better over the years, to individualize all 5 guys along an offensive line. But still, this is what we had to go off.
Yeah, and listen, I don't, because yesterday I said, and I still do believe that the offensive line is probably the last group that really gels. But once they gel, they typically, unless there's injury, they typically remain a good offensive line. You don't see an offensive line that's still like the Philadelphia Eagles or one of these other teams that love to run the football. The only reason there's a dip in their offensive line is because of injury or a guy is retiring. But because once those 5 guys lock in, like, and they're good, they're always going to be good. And the only thing that sort of throws that off is an injury. Okay. The Titans, they have to get to that point where all 5 of these guys are locked in. And it's going to take some time. But in trying to get everybody locked in, you can't be messing up. You can't have false starts. You can't have holding penalties. Why? Because we're still trying to develop this offensive line. We're still trying to develop this team. And every pre or post snap penalty you have, or every false start you make, it hurts our ability to continue to develop as a team or as an offensive alignment. So I expect moving forward incrementally, this offensive line will get better. That's my expectation. If they are not better by the middle of the season, then we have a problem. We really do, because I don't expect them to be the best offensive line in the National Football League by the middle of the season, but I do expect them to look much better than what they do now.
One texter, Jeff from Murfreesboro, says Brian Callahan might preach, in quotes, against penalties, but just curious, how many penalties did the team average under Mike Vrabel? I don't know the answer to that. I think it could be a respect thing. Brian Callahan seems like I can't say that word. I wouldn't want to play for a guy like that. Jeff from Murfreesboro.
Again, coaches, I don't know how Brian Callahan is when he's in those meeting rooms, when he's at practice every day with these guys. I can tell you how he is from what he shows us, and he seems like a mild-mannered guy. It takes a lot to push, to get him riled up. He seems like a guy that, tries to understand his players and trying to do what is best for his players. So to say he's anything outside of that, and the players haven't given any indication that he is anything outside of that either. Cam Ward just talked about, how he wants him to remain his play caller.
Can I share something I thought when I heard that?
Yeah.
That is the second time I can recall Cam Ward stumping for Brian Callahan since becoming since the beginning of training camp.
Yeah.
He did it once, I believe, at the Atlanta joint practices. After a practice, he lavished praise on Brian Callahan and their relationship, and I want this guy to be my coach. I can't remember the precise words. But then I heard that again. And I thought to myself, my first thought was, and this, I don't know why I went to this, because, before I was happily married, it'll be 6 years in December, I knew a thing or two about desperation. Okay. I think I knew a thing or two about desperation.
Okay.
And, now again, I'm happily married, 4-year-old son, beautiful family, all that great stuff. But it's not like I was warding off the ladies with a part. Did you
Warning.
see? Yes. Did you see?
Talking about Warning.
Did you see? Yeah. did you
Cam
see? Okay, sidebar. Did you see how Taylor Swift arrived at the Chiefs game last night? They put up this sort of partition, and as she was walking to, I guess, the locker room or to wherever she had to go to get to her seat, they like moved the partition with her so that you couldn't see her or take pictures of her.
They did that?
Basically, I wasn't doing that with the ladies whenever I went out in Nashville.
But
when it feels a little desperate. I don't think Cam Ward is going up there thinking, I've got to say something about Brian Callahan right now so that Amy Adams-Strunk and Chad Brinker or Mike Borgonzi hear it. And if they hear from me, they won't fire him. They wouldn't dare fire him. I don't think he's doing that. But I heard that.
But it's not the only person he does it for. Like he'll stand up for Ridley that way.
Mm-hmm.
The other, he builds up everybody around him is what I've noticed, including Callahan, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
like what was it, the video game where he was like Calvin Ridley, best guy in football,
Yeah,
Fortnite,
you know?
yes.
He's sticking with his guys. And listen, you expect that from your quarterback. Listen, he understands, he sees and understands what many of us don't see and don't understand. That it's not all, it's what you see isn't everything. So when he goes up to the podium and somebody asks him questions about Brian Callahan or this and that, he's answering from, at least I believe, because this is how I answered it a lot of times. I answered it based upon what I know and you may not know. You know, what I may know what happened in that huddle and somebody else quite didn't know, or what happened in that series or this play or this and that. So when I'm vouching for this guy, it's because if I would have did my job, if they would have did their job, if this guy hadn't dropped, that would have been a complete pass. That would have been, we would have moved the chains on this one. We would have did this. That has nothing to do with the coach. So when I come up to the podium, I'm going to defend my coach because I understand that it's not all on him. Like, we got to go out there and we got to get the job done, point blank, because the only thing that save coaches is if those plays work. If the players that are running the plays make it work. When you don't make it work, I don't care who you have out there, they're going to start to question you and your play calling. Oh, Andy Reid even got questioned with his play calling in Philadelphia. You know, we know how great Andy Reid is. So if the plays aren't working, people are questioning. When the plays do work, no one's questioning.
Well, did you hear what Bears fans were? Well, actually, it was Lions fans chanting towards Ben Johnson. But Ben Johnson is another example, and I think we should get more into this tomorrow about play calling. But Ben Johnson, he was the next it kid, right? I don't know, he's not a kid, but he was the next it guy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not going well in Chicago through 2 games. So look, play calling is incredibly difficult. We went through the play callers. We're going to continue this conversation tomorrow because I do think we can have a really good conversation about it. But that'll do it for us today. We want to thank Circa Sportsbook for having us out here in Franklin, Kentucky. Monday Night Football doubleheader. If you're looking for something to do, come on up to the Mint Gaming Hall. Excellent setup here. Big screen TVs, plush chairs, all the things that you want when you're watching football. But again, we will be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock back in the studio. The Commodore Hour is coming up next.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday. I love you. We love you. Peace.